Good evening and welcome to Art Talk. I'm Laura Womack, and with us is executive producer Jen McHugh.
Hi, everyone. Welcome.
Tonight, we're going to take a look at Phillips Mill's drama program, which has been in existence since the beginning of the Mill as an arts center. That is even before our formation as a community center in 1929. William Lathrop, his family, including his children, and his friends performed amateur theatrics, and that has continued to today when we have several dramatic events at the Mill each year. Coming up, we have a playwriting competition. In spring, we have a musical cabaret. Our premier showcase in the summer features the work of an affiliated playwright. And we're launching Play with Words, a playwriting program for young writers, as well as a salon. We'll hear more about this with two of our drama team's core members, Valerie Eastburn, drama chair, and Fran Young. Valerie Eastburn's first Mill performance was in A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. She acted in numerous performances until she retired from the stage to fill a new role, motherhood. Once her children were older, she was called back to service in the early 90s. And since then, Valerie has demonstrated her versatility as an actor, director, and author of several musical comedy cabarets, including Schadenfreude, Down the Rabbit Hole, and Wizard of Oz. Valerie is a force in much of the Mill's expansion in drama. Welcome, Valerie Eastburn.
Thank you so much, Laura. We're thrilled to be here with you.
Also joining us is Fran Young. She has a BS in theater and English from Northwestern University, where she appeared in numerous productions. She taught English and theater arts at Verona High School in New Jersey for 39 years. Since she retired from teaching, she's become active in local theater. She's a member of Playwrights Bridge and the Phillips Mill Community Association's Drama Committee. She's performed in numerous local readings, the Manhattan Repertory Theater in New York City, New Hope Repertory Company, and the Phillips Mill stage in Three Ring Circus and Marriage, What's Love Got to Do With It, which she also directed. Fran performed in the 2019 Emerging Playwright Competition readings, went on to direct and perform the last Emerging Playwright readings the last 2 years, and she'll be directing this year's reading as well. Fran performed in Rick Goodwin's Bleeding in Black and White, this year's premier showcase production at the Mill. Welcome, Fran Young.
Very happy to be here. Thanks.
And welcome to all of you in attendance. If you have any questions, we'd love to share your questions. This is your opportunity. Please put them in the Q&A so we can find them easily. And all right, let's get right to it. So coming up next for drama at the Mill, and next up at the Mill is the Emerging Playwright Competition, which is just 5 years old, but it's really taking off.
Yes, we have amazing 6 plays this year from local playwrights as well as playwrights in New York City and New Jersey. The 6 plays this year are very, very interesting. They're all only have 2 characters in each, but they're very touching. They're about family, all different kinds of family dynamics and personal relationships. And we have a wonderful cast of actors. We have 11 different actors coming in to perform for us, whole range of ages, some who are 20 and some who are 80. And so I'm very excited for the cast that we have. I just scheduled rehearsals. And we will be up and going on Saturday, November 19th. We start at 7, and we have a reading of the plays. And then afterwards, we have a talk back with the playwrights, which is always exciting and informative. And of course, we will be serving little munchies and some wine. So, but I'm very excited about this year's production. I think it's going to be really, really excellent.
I think the audience really looks forward to talking directly to the playwrights after the readings, and you can really get up and personal with them and ask if they're writers. It's a fabulous experience.
Right. And I think too, and the actors mill around with the audience as well, and they talk to the playwrights. It's a wonderful evening. It really is.
Yeah. Very special.
So now the Emerging Playwrights, it's not staged in the sense that we don't have a set, why is that?
It's the idea behind it is the actors, excuse me, so that the playwrights can hear their words being read by actors, by trained actors. And one of the reasons we don't stage it is time and money. I mean, when you mount a real full production, you're talking scenery, props, costumes, and a lot more time for the actors. But this way, we can present these plays, and I don't think it lacks anything by not being fully staged, especially the plays that we have this year, because they're very interpersonal. Most of them are two people talking about a problem or about something, about their relationship. And so even if we were to stage those, they'd be sitting at a table instead of standing at a podium. So when we do a staged reading, it allows everybody to see the vision of what the play will be. And I think most of the playwrights will agree. These are all works in progress.
Right.
They will listen to our performers perform, and they will take something away from that, and they may go back and say, you know, that little interchange between Sally and Johnny just didn't work. I think I'm going to rework that. So the whole point is for them to hear their work. And so, because every writer, I think, will agree, it's always a work in progress. Every writer will say that.
The writers come back to us and say numerous times, I thought I was going to get a big laugh there, and there was nothing. Or they laughed somewhere where I did not anticipate that was so funny, but they seem to love it.
Right. Or
these are short plays that haven't been performed anywhere else. This is like right off the press, right here. They've been workshopped, but this is pretty, you know, it's I don't want to say raw material, but
it's new. It's new.
new.
And when you look at the great playwrights of our history in American literature, Tennessee Williams rewrote. You know, there are about 3 versions of every play he ever wrote. So I think a lot of writers, and I know Rick Goodwin, who is one of our writers and a member of the Mille and a performer in the Mille, he always says he won the EPC one year. He wrote one of the plays for our last musical, Bistro. And he says, you're constantly writing, you're constantly changing, you're constantly improving.
That's why the audience is so critically important. And this is so great for the playwright to be able to get their work in front of an audience for all these reasons. And the audience, I hope they realize how important the audience is at the Mille.
Right. And I think, I remember one time I cast the play a little differently, and the playwright came to me and he said, you know, I never thought of casting 2 women in those roles. I always thought of it as a man, and the playwright had said it should be gender non-specific. I always thought of it as a man and a woman, but it worked really well with 2 women. I'm so glad you did that. So it gives the playwrights a lot to work with and a lot to think about.
Well, I think it's such an interesting point. What you just said, Fran and Valerie, you talked about they were getting laughs in a place where they didn't expect it and not where they did expect it. I mean, doesn't that go to the fact that, you know, the production itself is so important? You know, that the writer might write it one way, but how it's interpreted by the actors and the director.
Yes,
exactly.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And I think it's a wonderful learning experience for the playwrights. And I have to say, we've always had positive feedback from our playwrights. Very often, some of the playwrights will reach out to the actors and thank them for their interpretation. And I've had some reach out to me and thank them for my, you know, input. So I think it's just an overall wonderful theater experience for everyone involved.
And the actors that we have doing these readings they all volunteer their time.
Yes.
And they're all excellent. And I think they realize how critically important they are to the reading of this play, because they are the one who they're interpreting that work. And it's quite powerful to have that.
I was impressed when I went to see Emerging Playwrights last year that it wasn't, what you see as a table read where
Right.
we're just going through the lines. I mean, the actors are really putting a lot of emotion and feeling into it. I mean, they're giving a full performance, even if the
Right.
stage is dark without props and not a lot of moving around. It's a full performance, really.
Yes, yes,
Mhm.
yeah.
So,
It just,
yeah, please
No,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Yeah, well, I was just, it just, and that's why there's like, I direct the EPC readings. I'm working with the actors on interpretation and what they do. I've found many of these actors are very busy. A lot of them are real people in the real world who have jobs, and then they do theater in the evening. So I find it's really helped to do the first rehearsal via Zoom, because we could do it at 10 o'clock at night without a problem. And a lot of them, it worked out very well. They give their interpretation. I work with them on what they're doing. So it is a full performance. It just doesn't have
Right.
props and
Stage-
furniture and
stage set.
costumes and things of that nature. Yeah.
So that's so fascinating, Fran, that you can do a rehearsal on Zoom.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Who knew?
Who knew before COVID that we could do this?
Yeah. Well, the year of COVID, we postponed the EPC. And then we said, oh, we'll do it in the spring. Well, then the spring came and we were still locked down.
That's right.
And then we finally decided, we can't let this go by. We have to do this. So we did it on Zoom. We filmed we rehearsed everything on Zoom because we were still on lockdown, and we filmed them and put it on YouTube. I think we had it on. Yeah. And it went beautifully. We had a lot of hits, as they say, on it. It really worked very well.
It was great that we did not have to miss 1 year.
Yeah.
So we've been running this for 5 years, all through COVID, and
Yeah. And of course,
happy
a
we did.
reading lends itself to Zoom
Right.
because you don't have props
Right.
and scenery and all that. So it does lend itself.
So how did Emerging Playwrights start? Valerie, I think you were instrumental in that.
Well, the history has a tradition of juried competitions in the art show, in the photography show. And our committee, what we were thinking, drama should have a juried competition. And that's how the Emerging Playwright competition was born.
And you came up with it, or it came up out of a discussion, or?
It came up out of a discussion in the drama committee. And when I hear an idea and I think it's a good idea and we can do it, I grab it and we run with it. And that's what happened.
We love that about you, Valerie. We're really grateful for all the ideas that you've run with and enrich our community with.
Oh, you should hear the ideas that I was not allowed to do.
So, but that's an interesting point that I was going to ask you. Why playwriting competition as opposed to a dramatics competition? And I think it's something, that from observation, I'm not active on the drama committee, but you have an emphasis on original material.
Right. Yeah. And that dates way back to 1929. There's a history of that at the Mill. One of the members of the Mill would write the material, or it started with these cabaret shows, the comedy cabaret shows. Starting with, now I don't go back farther than Dottie Summers, but she used to write many of the cabarets then, and then Jackie Clark came up the ranks after her, and I'm sure there were others, but the tradition was homegrown. We would call them homegrown musical comedy, cabarets that a lot of the Mill membership was involved in, and it was always just a great fun. So as these musical comedy cabarets evolved, it got more and we would throw in an occasional funny thing happen on the way to the forum, or guys and dolls, but mostly it was, written material. And that we just continued that tradition.
I think too, I mean, theater begins with the written word. And then what gives theater life is that written word being spoken. And there's so much talent in this area. I mean, Bucks County alone is very artsy, shall we say. And there are so many people who write, and they have so much to say, right? And we give them a platform so that their works can be performed. It's a cruel world out there in the publishing world. It's very hard if you're a playwright who's never been published to get your works published. And so it's this way, we are giving people in the community who are talented an opportunity to have their works performed, which I think is fabulous. And so the last musical comedy bistro that we did, we had 8 plays, all written, very short, funny, but they were all written by local playwrights, most of whom had won the EPC.
And this is the thing, we are forming these relationships with these other writers in a 100-mile radius of the Mill.
Yeah.
And we can now call on it and ask these writers, can you write something for our new show coming up?
Yeah.
This is the topic. Or do you have anything in your pocket? This is our topic that would be appropriate, for the
Which
show.
is what we did, because we said our theme is marriage. We're looking for 8 to 10 minute plays, funny, on the theme of marriage. And we got 8 fabulous works, so, and all people, as Val said, we have a relationship with these playwrights now. And I think it's great that we're doing new, innovative works. Anybody can look through the drama catalog and pick out a play and pay the royalties and hand out the scripts and do it, but we're doing brand new works.
And there again, you have your audience and, oh, I've seen that already.
Right. Nobody's seen
I saw
this.
that last year.
Yeah.
It is said that the Mill has the best small stage in Bucks County.
Yeah.
And I believe it. It is a small stage, but it's fabulous. And I think the whole atmosphere of the Mill itself lends itself to just wonderful working relationship between the actors and the playwrights and the musicians. And it's,
So what does that mean, the best small stage? What makes it a good, is that a metaphor, or do they mean literally it's a great small stage?
It's a lovely little venue to perform on. It's by most stage standards, it's very small, but but that creates an intimacy with the audience, I think.
Right, absolutely.
Especially for these EPC readings. I mean, you're right there with the audience.
There we go. Again, how critically important the audience is. And you're up on stage, let's say during one of the musical comedies, and the audience starts laughing as you enact something that you did. Well, that just builds. And it can become such an intense, fabulous love fest between the audience and the actors up there. And since we're a small stage, it's, as you said, intimate and pretty close. And also it works together, just the emotional quality of it. When we were doing the premiere showcase, Rick Goodwin's play, Bleeding Black and White, I had the good fortune to have a role in that. And I had one scene that was extremely emotional and very, it made people cry. And I was, I got, the lights went down, I got up because I had to move the pillows or whatever, and I noticed there were people who were crying in the audience. And because it's such an intimate space, you can see that. And I just think it creates a better theater experience. That was very.
What was that like for you, Fran, to look down and see the audience crying as you're working so hard to convey?
It's wonderful. It's what theater is. You want to move people, you want to touch people, and I do think Rick's play did that. So it was a very moving experience.
Sometimes in theater, whether if you're an actor or if you're in the audience and you are so touched by something and your heart just explodes at that moment, there's nothing like that moment.
Yeah, and hopefully we can do those.
So now this we're talking right now with Rick Goodwin's work. We're talking about the premiere showcase last year
in July.
Right. And so tell me the history of that program. How long have we been doing that? How do you select that script? How does that
We
work?
even,
One of
we
our
did
newer programs, yeah.
we did this in 2017 for the first time. It was a play by playwright Chris Kanan. And then COVID came along, and because it was a fully staged production, we couldn't do that. We couldn't Zoom it, So the premiere showcase was put on hold for about 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So we only had our second premiere showcase in 2022. But how that came about was that we had a new member of our drama committee, and once again we were discussing what are the possibilities, what can we do, and she said, have you ever done a premiere showcase? Well, that's all we had to hear. Love that idea, let's do it.
Right.
And that is how the premiere showcase came about. The number of members of the drama committee saw readings of Rick Goodwin's play.
Mhm.
And we were all of the consensus that this definitely, it's a fully formed, full-length play ready for the stage. And we all said, this is the one that deserves to be seen, on the Mill stage. That's how that play was chosen.
Right.
We have since gotten a little tighter. We have a reading panel that accepts, the word gets out very quickly. People send us now scripts of full-length plays.
Yeah.
And Fran, actually, you have started a library of material that's been sent to us. And this reading panel there's a lot to consider. But why don't you talk about that?
Well, there's
what we
lot,
can do.
There's a lot to consider in terms of, we have to remember our stage.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain things we just cannot produce on a small stage. We don't have the space. If it's a play that you have to change the scenery 6 times, we don't have any wing space to do that. So it has to be a play that is producible for us. We're a small theater, so it has to be an intimate play, a play that doesn't have a lot of scenery, that doesn't have a lot of scene changes, that you can, and of course, a play that has a lot of scenery and a lot of scene changes, if you have a vision, you can produce it, but you have to have a vision for how can this be produced on our stage
Without losing
the meaning of the play. So I think we have to keep that in mind. You can't put a chorus of 24 people on this stage.
Yeah,
it's just not going to work. It's an intimate space. So
I'd love to see that, though. How are the acoustics at the Mill? How would you?
Acoustics?
Why not? Right?
Yeah, we'd be bumping into each other like crazy. There's literally very little backstage space.
We're constantly tweaking the acoustics or the equipment.
Yeah.
But
so that's one of the things we have to think about. And two, is it crafted? Is it a play that is ready?
Mm-hmm.
You can read a script and think this play is good, but it needs a little this, it needs a little that. Somebody has to tweak this. We want a play that is ready to be mounted on the stage.
At the same time, has never been performed anywhere else. That's the key.
Reading is one
catch
thing,
it right at that little apex, right?
Right there, right. Because it's a
So
premiere.
if it had been performed in another small theater, say in rural part of Pennsylvania, no. No. Okay. And earlier you referenced 100 miles. Is that the radius for drama?
I don't know if that's the radius for the emerging playwright competition. For the premiere showcase, we are in the process actually of developing the prospectus for that, and that is one thing that we have not.
We're talking about that.
We are talking about that, right? Yeah. We are talking about that, and if we want the playwright to be, sometimes a playwright chooses to direct their own work. And if that happens, that playwright can't live in Brooklyn. Yeah, it just wouldn't work. So
we're also in the process of creating a list of local directors. So if it is a playwright who is not all playwrights feel like they have the ability to direct their own work.
Right, exactly.
But if that's the case, we could say, here, we have a list here of good local directors who would be willing to do your work. I think we have quite a list of good local actors.
Yep.
Whom we could say, we of course have auditions. We're having auditions, come to the auditions, that kind of thing. So we want to be able to provide a playwright with some resources.
But
So
yeah.
please
At
go
the
ahead.
same time, we'd like the playwright to be very involved.
Yes, of course.
With mounting the play, all the components that go in. It is not just, the actors on the stage, reading the script. There's many components that go into producing, a show. And we want the playwright to be involved in all those aspects.
Are there subject matters that you won't touch or something that you're looking for content wise?
We try to stay as far away from, what is that word? I have blocked the word censorship.
Yeah, censorship. Yeah. No, I mean, I don't think so. If it's done well and it's a good play, I think we'd be open to it.
Right.
Yeah.
So the premiere showcase this year was quite serious. You have also the musical cabaret in the spring, which is, I think that's generally you do a light show in the spring.
Yes. In fact, our new this title is going to be, what's our new title? Now that's funny.
Now that's funny.
That's what we're going to do this year. We're going to try and be as funny as possible.
Then the focus of the musical comedy cabarets is entertainment.
Yes.
We want the audience laughing in the aisles.
Come have a good time.
We want them singing with us. We want them tapping their feet. We want them howling, at the humor. That's what the focus of it.
Yeah. I think that's what we have.
Community theater, I'll tell you, it's a very special thing. Anybody out there who wants to get involved in community theater, it is a family.
Yeah.
You live with each other for weeks, months. You cheer each other on. You commiserate when things aren't going well,
and help each other.
and help each other.
Yeah.
It's just the most remarkable. Community theater is the best. It's a remarkable thing that happens to people. And then after the last performance, poof,
All over.
it's all over.
I think one of the things you asked me was, why did I join? Because I'm pretty new to the Mill. And why did I join the Mill? And why do I?
Because we never let her go. Yes, we met her.
What were one of your reasons to be working with the Mill? And I think one of the first things I said was, I love the people. I love the community aspect of it. It's really, it's very supportive, and it's especially the comedy bistro. It really is. It's so much fun, and the audience enjoys. That's why we do the tables. People sit around tables and they can bring food and drink, and it's just very casual, wonderful evenings of comedy and fun.
So Fran, you've been involved with many other drama programs, not at the Mill. Is it different at the Mill?
Yes. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I have been involved as a performer with other things. I've done other readings. I was part of a group called Playwrights Bridge, which has since disbanded. But we read playwrights' works and we commented on them. But I was an actor. I'm not a writer. So I've mostly been in performance in these other groups. With the Mill, I'm on the drama committee. I'm directing now. I'm helping to cast, helping to get new actors in. And so it's more than, for instance, like the EPC, I'm not in one of the plays. I'm going to do the narration. You have to do read some of the stage directions, but I'm directing it and I'm organizing it and organizing the whole, the evening of performance. So I'm doing more directing and
this is the beauty of the Mill. We are volunteer driven, but when someone like Fran Young, comes into our midst and they're accomplished and they're sensible and we know what that person can do. We embrace that 100%. Now she might be saying, "Let me go."
But Fran, is the environment, you've done so many different roles. Is the environment at the Mill different than some of these other places?
I don't know what, I mean, I don't know what you mean by environment. You mean,
You
people
said
are-
you've both talked about how, close and warm and supportive.
oh, well, I've been in some groups that were warm, and it depends on the people, I mean, and quite frankly, the other readings that I have done I wouldn't have done them if I didn't like the people that were involved,
Right.
because I'm doing this for fun. I'm retired. And I just want to have fun with the theater.
And are you inviting, like, if a new person wanted to come and be in, help with the spring musical?
Yes, come.
What kind of qualifications do they need?
The willingness to put the time and energy into it, and with a good attitude. That's really basically it. There's always something for a person to do.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
and it's if someone was, for instance, interested in, I've never worked backstage, but I'd love to help you backstage. Okay, fabulous. I'll teach them how to do X, Y, Z. I think that's one thing that's nice about the Spring Bistro is, like, come on, everybody. We had a lot of musicians this year, and many were Mill members. I think Val, you had an email. Anybody want to play an instrument? Want to be part of the band? And we had several.
Yes, we had a 6-piece band playing the music for the show, and that's always special. I think that's a highlight of the musical comedy cabarets, that we have live music.
Yeah.
So many organizations are not able to do that,
Yeah.
but we use a lot of volunteer
musicians,
and I
to
think
do it.
and that's a lot of time that they give us.
Years ago, I don't think there were auditions, but we'll probably have auditions and welcome any Mill member who has been thinking about coming out to be a part of the show, but maybe a little reticent. Come on. And auditions are very
and anyone in the community
and people in the community. That's how we got a few people who walked in and auditioned, and then now they're Mill members. They joined the Mill after they were in the show.
Barry Middleberg, our guitarist, is now a Mill member and fabulous, and he just slid right into that role. And I knew he was a fine musician, and he just, really was a lot more than just the guitar player in the band.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, good. So we have some questions. I want to make sure we get to those.
Okay.
I've let them sit for a little bit. Jen, what have we got?
Well, I think you touched on this a bit, but Dennis Riley wanted to know, what are the components of producing a play?
Oh my goodness. A full mounted production, like Bleeding in Black and White. You have to cast the play. You need a scenic designer. You have to make the scenery. You need a stage manager. You need someone to be in charge of props. You need someone to organize the props. You need someone to get the props. You need someone to discuss costumes. You need someone to direct the play.
Scheduling.
And then you need someone to do the rehearsal schedules. I'm trying to think of any sponsorships, ticket sales, advertising. I think that it's a lot.
As you can see, there's something for everyone to do.
For a full mounted production. Yeah.
All right, good. And we have another question.
Yes, we do. Frank wanted to know, what is your season and how many productions do you do in a season?
Want me to? Okay.
Sure.
All right. So we start, I'll say we kind of start in the fall. Our first thing is the EPC readings. This year it's November 19th.
And the submission period, however,
it starts in
July.
June or July. Yeah, July. And then after the EPC readings, this year we're having one of the salons, though there's supposed to be about 4 of them, I think, throughout the year. Some of them have not been scheduled yet. Then we start working on the spring bistro comedy cabaret. We start working on that in like February, just getting
Yeah.
everything organized, doing auditions. We start rehearsals probably somewhere in March.
Because we have music
Music
and dance
and
and
acting.
acting.
So
So
it's-
it's a big,
yeah,
Betty
it's-
Benton choreographs,
Mhm.
and we choose the music. We have to find people,
Right.
you know, appropriate keys. So it's a lot of
It's
background.
a lot of work going on. And that's in May. This year, I think the plan is 2 weekends, May 12th and 13th, or maybe not, but I know definitely it's the weekend before Memorial Day weekend, which is the 18th, 19th, and 20th. But we're still firming up those dates, given some scheduling issues. Yeah, playwriting.
So play with
Oh,
words.
and then we have, and so that starts now. And as that's going on, we're also doing the contest for the youth drama.
The youth
Play with
playwriting contest. That's from grades 4 through 6.
Mhm.
They are in their submission period right now, and that ends December 31st.
Okay. And don't we do high school too? Is that, or is it just
From grades 4
4
through
through
12.
4 through 12?
4 through 12. And
then I think
their
those-
readings are
March 12th,
March
right?
12th.
March 12th. So that kind of all overlaps in there. And then after the spring production, the comedy, then we start the producing of the premiere showcase. So that rehearses all through June into July, and that's in July. I'm not sure, I don't have the date down.
Mhm.
So I know it's the weekend my nephew's getting married. What can I say?
And so these other literary salons,
Yeah,
we
will be
Fran said,
sprinkled.
will be sprinkled through, and we'll be doing things like poetry, possibly flash fiction.
Let's come back and take these one at a time, Valerie, if you don't mind.
Okay,
Let's
sure.
back up for a minute and talk about the youth writing competition. That's brand new this year.
That's brand new.
And so where did that idea come from, and how does that look?
Play with words. Well, the drama committee had been talking for quite a while about what can we do for the younger set. For a long time, we used to do play productions where it would the children would help write the script maybe, or Kevin Nolte would write the script and the kids would perform during, and usually August. It was harder and harder to get young kids in the door of the Mill. Things change. Moms and dads are looking for longer programs. August is a hard time. Many people are away. All sorts of things fed into this. Our Mill population itself, we don't have a lot of kids to populate these scripts. So we thought, what would make more sense in this time that we are in now? And someone said, well, we're very successful. We've been successful with the emerging playwright competition, but you have to be 18 and older. Why don't we have something like that for the younger set? What a great idea. Let's run with that and see what happens.
And it really fills a niche that is not filled. When we looked into, because I taught theater for so long in high school, I looked into maybe organizing some sort of summer program for children. There are so many programs in this area, Potts County Playhouse and that Mountain Theater and everything, tons of them, but there are no programs for playwriting and for kids to be able to see their work up on the stage.
And yet there are a lot of kids out there who write, but there really isn't a way to showcase their writing.
Exactly.
And so we are one of the very few programs in our area that we're doing this. And as we said, it's the first time out the gate that we're doing this contest. And so we're hoping that this will become popular and grow over the years. There are no classes that I am aware of, homeschooling or private schooling or public education in the area specifically for playwriting for kids. So these are the kids who are writing on their own, and that we have to reach those people, those kids from in grades 4 through 12. But this is a possibility where you can submit your work every submission will get a critique, if you will, from our reading panel of judges. Every submission will have a response about their work, whether they're chosen, as a winner in their category or not. Kids have a lot to say, and we want to make sure that there is a place for them to say it.
So that's a big range, 4th grade to seniors.
Well,
We've broken it down into 3 categories.
All
So
right.
it's like 4 through 6 and 6 through 9, and I forget 10 through 12 or whatever. So it's
Exactly.
3 different. Yeah.
And those submissions are going on now.
Yes,
And
we started about a week or 2 ago and through December 31st.
well, that's very exciting.
It is.
Yeah, so I look forward to that. That'll be fun to see the performances of the kids writing. I'm excited about that. The salon, that's another new one. So you're starting in 2 new programs this year. They're very ambitious. Kudos to you. Tell us about the salon. What is that about? It sounds very intriguing.
Well, the salons were a little bit easier to get off the ground, but the play with words, just because it's happening this year, there was a lot of planning, like a year and a half, back. When you're thinking of doing an initiative like this, there's a lot of groundwork you have to cover to make sure and to give it every possibility that your program is going to be successful. So it's all in the foundation. A lot of it is in the groundwork. And it just so happens that we're ready to do it now.
Yeah.
And it just coincided with salons. Salons were something that we have wanted to do also for a long time. With COVID, we couldn't do it. And so these things were on the back burner. And we found this marvelous John McDonald, who is willing to host. We call it hosting because it is a very relaxed atmosphere. There's a social component to it.
Artists sharing their work.
Sharing.
It's just sharing your performance, sharing your work. I think he has in mind, this one is monologues. And I think you can write your own monologue, or you can bring in a monologue that's from a known play or not so known play, whatever, and perform.
So what is your pick? Acting or writing?
Right. And then he's planning one on storytelling, which is a whole different art form. And we're going to do it along with that. And then I think there's plans for, interpretive reading of poetry, whether it's your poetry or someone else's poetry, or an interpretive reading of fiction and things. So it'll just be people sharing their work, the works or works of others that they appreciate, and performing, having a non-threatening environment in which to perform.
And salons have actually been going on in the world, for hundreds of years. And from my reading, the salons have always been in a comfortable environment. And what we'd like to do for our salons is have artwork on the walls, or photography. Maybe the Spencer Saunders, who heads up the photography exhibition, we'll talk to some of his photography friends, and we'll have some photographs on the wall or some art, some paintings. Who knows? Maybe one of these salons will center.
One of my ideas was, we could do something of everybody who's come to the salon, pick a piece of artwork that moves you, and give you 25 minutes, write something, write your impressions, write a poem, write a little short piece,
and then
share it, so, but all, as I think it's stressing, a very non-threatening, comfortable environment, which John will be fabulous with because he's such a wonderful person. And he's known in the area. He has done several readings. He writes plays. He's a published writer. So we're very excited about him joining us.
And the Mill is fabulous because we're not charging anything for these salons. There might be what would you call it? A free will donation if anyone is so moved, at the end. But we're using the space. Yes, there's heating. Yes, there's electricity or air conditioning. But we feel it's a wonderful community thing to offer
Mhm.
this fabulous, fabulous environment to come and join us for this. The Mill, of course, you know, we have a lot of bills to pay, taking care of this fabulous old 1700s mill, but
And people are generous. I
Yeah,
think,
they
you
are.
know, they will be generous, but
Yeah.
but
uh-oh.
we lost, we can't, okay.
There we go. We have
There
a
we go.
comment, Jen. Can you share that for us?
Sure. We have a comment from Joao Neves, who is a member of our board and also a member of the drama committee. And he gave a very concise answer to Frank's question when he said, "What is your season?" He said, "The Mill Drama does not have a season of plays as many other theaters have. We have many events, but they are each for different purposes. We are incentivizing and providing recognition for creativity in writing, not so much for acting plays that are commercially available." So thank you, Joelle. That was
Perfect.
perfect. Yes,
Well done.
yes,
Well done.
Why
yes.
isn't he here? Yeah.
So what is the motivation, the raison d'etre, if you will, of the drama program at the Mill? Why do we have it? What do you think?
Well, we'd like to give creative people who are a forum to showcase their work, to share their work, to offer another line of communication, communication in the community.
I think Val had said, we had talked about this, and she talked about the power of the spoken word. You know, that writing is great, artwork is great, but when you hear the spoken word, there's a certain power behind it in terms of what it expresses. I also think theater is part of humanity. It's in our DNA. I mean, it's just, you know,
I think it was Vanessa
excuse-
Redgrave who said that theater to civilization is as important as pure drinking water.
Yeah,
We believe that.
yeah. And I think a lot of people do. I mean, I don't know, when I went to the first theater production in New York City after the COVID shutdown, I couldn't believe the energy in that theater. Everybody was, I mean, they got the announcement that says, "Put your cell phone away," got a standing ovation. People were so excited to be back in the theater, you know.
And turn the devices off.
Yeah, I mean, they were thrilled. Oh, great. Well, you know, because there's something about theater that brings people together. There's something about, as Val said, the power of the spoken word. And I think that's why we do it, you know, and that's why we want to give local playwrights and new and upcoming writers a forum.
And I have to say, this is like such a perfect environment. The Mill,
Because it's so
the
intimate.
Mill itself is so fabulous.
Mhm.
As soon as you step on the, you know,
Yeah.
step inside the door, you're just enveloped with this feeling. It's
The history of it.
it's the history of it. It's hard to put into words, but it's warm, it's safe, it's welcoming, it's
Mhm.
all those things. And we're sharing that.
Yeah, that's beautifully said, Valerie. And it goes back to our founder, William Lathrop, and his family. Can you tell us a little bit about the history of drama at the Mill?
Yes, as you said, plays, theatrical performances, pantomimes were happening. It was actually George Morley Marshall who owned the Mill in the late 1800s when the Mill ceased for the last time to grind that grain. And his kids would play here in the Mill as a playhouse, and the neighbors would do these little pantomimes, these plays. And at one point, George Morley Marshall said, "Hey, you know what? We're not grinding the grain anymore. I think we need to build a stage." And so he got his community friends together. They cut down a few trees and they built the first stage at the Mill, and it's been going ever since. We have written history of what's been happening drama-wise at the Mill since 1929, when the Mill was incorporated into Phillips Mill Community Association. We actually have, you know, we know we know some of the plays that were happening way back then. I'm sorry, I lost the thread of your
history.
question.
No, you're doing great. And I
Okay.
think Alan has been really good at keeping records of what you've done.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so from the beginning, it was original works. I think that's really stands out. It's been original works from the beginning, or was there a time when they did perform some of the off the shelf, I guess you call it?
They did do off the shelf, and I can't even tell you what they were. I have not memorized all that. And when they started, I'm sure from the very beginning, they wrote their own material. I'm thinking of the children at the Mill right now, and who in theater didn't put on a play under the kitchen table, in the garage, throwing a bedspread over the clothesline when there were clotheslines. And what did you do for material? You wrote your material. That's also what we're hoping to capture with the play with words. These kids who have been writing this stuff and not realizing, hey, wait a minute, I can really make this, I can make this into a play. It's what I've been doing all along. Let me give that a shot. So when it started, I think it probably started from the very beginning that people would write their own material. As a matter of fact, I have a little funny anecdote. When I first joined the Mill, and I thought I would like to try my hand at directing, and I was told that there wasn't any material. And I was like, oh no, now what do we do? So you had to write it. And that's what we did.
And you found out you could write, Valerie. I mean, that because you didn't have a background of that, is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. So, and I'm sure there are a lot of people of our old actors laughing because I would always steal something from Monty Python. We always had to have a Monty Python skit, in our show, and so it was a compilation and writing. It's the early comedy shows, when I was involved. Yeah.
Way to rise to the occasion. Well, again, we're having emerging playwright is coming up. You're in the process now of developing the performance of it or the reading. Where exactly are you now?
We're in terms of the plays have been selected, the casts have been selected, the first rehearsals have been scheduled, and we start, I believe my first rehearsal is November 2nd. And then we have a run through, a big like dress rehearsal. We're not dressed. We're dressed, but not costumes, on the 17th. And then the performance is November 19th at 7 o'clock.
I should also, we didn't mention the judges. We have,
Oh yes, we have
three wonderful judges who do their magic. At the midnight, the submission period ends at midnight. These are anonymous scripts. So the judges do not know who the playwright is. They don't know where the playwright lives. They are just given the pure script. They read every script and then they get together and they 50 scripts is our maximum. And then they choose the 6 winners. So we owe them a debt of gratitude for doing that.
Yeah.
And they're terrific.
Selected very well this year. I'm very excited about the 6 plays.
So can you give us, we don't want to know the details, we want to enjoy it as it happens, but can you give us a little, titillation of what we're looking forward to here?
I think, again, I was surprised a lot of them were oriented about family. So there's one play about a very elderly man and his son, and then there's a play about a widow and her daughter. And then there's a play about 2 sisters dealing with taking care of an elderly mother. But then there's also a play about 2 lovers who were divorced, and I won't say any more about that. There's a play about, let me see, a grandson and a grandfather who have sort of a contentious relationship. And then there is a play about a formerly famous actor auditioning for a role. And I can't say any more because that would give things away. So,
They're,
yeah, they're all.
they're all intriguing
Yeah.
situations.
Yeah, I will say that the one play, I won't say which one, but I gave it to the actors, and one of the actresses, she emailed me back and she said, "Oh my God, I can't stop crying," because she was so moved by it and she's very excited about doing it. So, but it's really, they're all seem, and it's kind of interesting. They all seem to be about interpersonal relationships and I don't know, maybe that's a result of people being locked in their houses for so long or something. But yeah, they're very, very intriguing.
I think the judges will say that it's difficult to do
Oh,
because
yeah.
the quality of work is really good and it's difficult to choose six. So I think for the next emerging playwright competition, we might add an additional category of honorable mention
Yeah.
or something like that, you know, for that one.
It must be tough,
Yeah.
you know, because they pick 6. What about number 7?
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
That
it
I
was
think is
gross.
part of life.
Yeah.
But
these
thank you both very much for joining us and telling us about the impressive array of activities that are going on at the Mill that are all produced by Drama Team. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you,
Thank you.
Laura and Jen and ArtTalk for giving us the
Thank
opportunity.
you for having us. Yes, thank you.
Appreciate
Very
it.
good. Valerie Eastburn is the chair of our drama program here at Phillips Mill. Fran Young is a core member. I think she wears all the hats as well.
She does.
Next time on Art Talk in November, we will be talking with artist Annalise Van Domelen about her many different styles of artwork. She works in all framed media, and she has an interest in corvids, particularly crows. So we're going to talk to her about her birds and her many different styles of artwork, and we're going to do that in her studio. So we'll get to see some of that. We're excited about it. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Join us in November. Thank you to executive producer Jen McHugh, to content producers Dennis Riley and Jean Mahitch. And I am Laura Womack. Thank you all, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.